We begin with a blessing for the study of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy with mitzvot, commandments that are both obligations and opportunities, and commands us to engage in words of Torah, Not even necessarily to understand, but to engage. This week, we're reading in Parshat Vayetze, which begins on Genesis chapter 28. And it begins as follows. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. He came upon a certain place and stopped there for the night, for the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of that place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place. And he had a dream. A stairway or a ladder was set on the ground, and its top reached to the sky, and angels of God were going up and going down on it. And Adonai was standing beside him. And Adonai said, I am Adonai, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. The ground upon which you are lying, I will assign to you and to your offspring. Your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall spread out to the west and to the east, and to the north and to the south. All the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you and your descendants. Remember, I am with you. I will protect you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, surely Adonai is present in this place, and I did not know it. Shaken, he said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God, and that is the gateway to heaven. Early in the morning, Jacob took the stone that he had put under his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on the top of it. He named that site Bethel, which means house of God. But previously, the name of the city had been Luz. As many of you know, at this point in the Torah story, Jacob is fleeing from his family. He has tricked his father with the help of his mother into giving the firstborn blessing to him rather than to his brother. He has been told by his mother he must flee to his mother's family, far away in Haran. There, Laban will trick him into marrying Leah when he thought he was marrying Rachel. And then Jacob will trick Laban in order to obtain much of Laban's flock. And that is just until the end of this week's Torah portion. Going forward, Jacob's life will be filled with tricks committed by him and upon him. That is the course of his life, perhaps the nature of his character since the time he was born, holding on to the heel of his brother. At this moment, he has an encounter, a vision, or a dream. It is at the moment that he is leaving the land of Canaan, leaving the land of Canaan. He is of course, leaving home for the first time. And that even today is always an anxious moment in life. But he is also leaving the land for the first time. And every time he transitions into or out of the land, Jacob seems to have a vision of some sort. In this case, he finds a place as evening is upon him, and he takes a rock to put it under his head and to use as a pillow. And as almost an aside, whenever I read this now, I think of inmates in hard cell in solitary confinement, each of whom are dealing with their own sets of internal and external trials and tribulations. I visit prisons weekly. Jacob, in his sleep, has a vision. This ladder or staircase with angels going up and going down. Just one way to read this is that these angels going up and going down are like the ups and downs of life, carrying our sense of purpose and our emotions up and down. We all have episodes in life that are harsh and difficult, and episodes that are sweet and uplifting. In Jacob's vision, God is standing beside him and saying, in effect, whatever happens, I will be with you. I will protect you, and I will bring you back home. As with Jacob, each of the up and down episodes of life we experience may have something to teach us, some lesson, perhaps a hard lesson, but something nonetheless to reveal to us, if we can see the spark of teaching in it, of course, if we can see the spark of Torah in it. We may instead be asleep to the message, like Jacob was until he woke up. And that may be the key line in this story. Vayikatz Yaakov mishnato. Jacob woke up from his sleep. And when he woke up from his sleep, he realized that God was in this place, but he did not know. My teacher, Rabbi Arthur Green, draws on Hasidic teaching with this verse when he notes that the Hebrew is very strange. It does not actually say, surely Adonai is present in this place and I did not know. It says, Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh, va'anochi lo yadati. There is strange wording here and an extra word. It says, yes, there is Yud Hey Vav Hey in this place, and Anochi I did not know. Anochi. Anochi is a big, heavy word for I. In fact, a couple verses earlier, God uses Anochi to refer to God's self. God says, V'hine Anochi imach, behold, I am with you. Many of you know the Hebrew word for I is ani. And many of you know that when you conjugate a verb, you don't even have to use the verb, the pronoun ani. But here, anochi is used. The word anochi is usually used by God or by royalty, not by a boy like Jacob fleeing from home. And it is not even necessary to say, he could have said, v'lo yadati, and I did not know. Rather, he says, v'anochi lo yadati, and I did not know. Hasidic teaching turns the anochi into an object rather than a subject. God is in this place, and anochi I did not know. That is, I did not know anochi. Anochi, a version of I, or a version of me that is infused with God, or is an expression of God's presence, or someone with whom God's presence is always present. The Anochi is an indication of God, of the presence of God inside each of us. And I did not know Anochi. I did not know this present God in me. Because there is an even stranger wording here. Jacob does not say God is in this place, but rather, Yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh. There is Adonai in this place, or there is Yud He Vav He in this place. There is divinity in this place, not God is present. There is divinity in this place, and I did not know the expression of God's presence that is always with me. Again, there is divinity in this place, and I did not know the expression of God's presence that is always with me until I woke up. Vayikatz Yaakov Mishnato. And Jacob woke up from his sleep. And now, suppose we are asleep. Suppose each of us is asleep. And while we see and experience the ups and downs in our life, we do not know that divinity is in this place, and nor did we know the expression of God's presence that is always with us, even in all of the ups and downs. How would we know that we are asleep? And if we are asleep, what can we do to wake up and be more aware? Well, if we are asleep, then we are taking much for granted. If we are asleep, we are forgetting to be amazed. We have little or no sense of wonder. We have become callous to how amazing all of existence is and how improbable life itself would seem to be. If we are asleep, we are taking much for granted and have little or no sense of gratitude. We forget to be grateful. We have forgotten the single most important thing that at least I have learned from working in a nursing home, which is that the most important things in life are the simplest things. The ability to have food and drink and shelter and warmth. Actually, the ability to eat and to drink and to get out of bed during the day and to walk. The ability to remember and to think and to speak and to manipulate things with your hands and fingers. The opportunity to have family and friends around you, people who know you and love you, and at the very least, remember you are there. These are the most important things in life, and among the most common things we take for granted. If we don't know this, then we must certainly be asleep. Yet another indication that we may be asleep is if we forget to have some element of trust, that some element of goodness may be around us even when things look bad. Even in the down times, we need to be awake to the possibility, even the probability, that some expression of goodness, some element of comfort, some cause for hope is in front of us. For if we forget that possibility, then we will not look and we will not see it. We will remain asleep and certainly overlook it. The people in our lives who are willing to help, sometimes eager to help, the possibility for improvement, the possibility that others will wake up to the problem and help solve the problem. Sometimes now, or sometimes maybe not in the immediate now, but in the future. Sometimes when we are looking into the face of some evil before us, the spark of godliness to be found in that circumstance will be located in the conviction within you that you will help make the difference. I refer to such times when it seems one bad thing after another is happening in the world, and we, at that moment, nevertheless, must remember that at some point things will change. But while that change will not happen tomorrow, it will only happen in the future if I, the Anochi, the I infused with the courage and persistence that comes from being awake to godliness in the moment, only if that I will decide to be the change, a change that will only happen if Anochi remembers to work for it and push for it. And that means striving for betterment, not with a sense of frustration that comes from knowing it will be a long time in the making, but striving for betterment with the joy of knowing that this change will happen one day, and I'm going to be a part of that long-term project. This is how we can joyfully be part of the struggles for democracy in America, even in the down times. This is how we can celebrate our connection to Israel, even as they install a right-wing government that has no commitment to the rights of minorities and no concern for a connection to the American Jewish community. Because we are part of Israel and Israel needs us, and we can be part of the long-term project of redeeming Israel from the evils of illiberal chauvinism. And this is how we can be a part of the effort to point out to people the reality of climate change, even as we see that climate is changing very quickly. Because we know people will learn the truth that it is happening, since it soon is going to bite them. And despite it all, we need to be joyful about it so we can use that joy to energize ourselves, to remind people that we are going to have to do a lot to deal with the consequences. We will need the energy that comes from that joy of knowing that we are part of the change. I am capable this week of suggesting this long-term perspective because this week, as we read how Jacob woke up to God's presence in the ups and downs of his life, we also witnessed Congress passing the Respect for Marriage Act in a move to create legislated federal protection for same-sex marriage. What I find most remarkable about that development is the number of religious groups that ended up supporting the establishment of federal marriage protection. These included not only Jewish groups, but a number of mainline churches, Hindu groups, Sikh groups, and even the Mormon Church and the National Association of Evangelicals. I think back over the past 40 years, and yes, I can remember over the past 40 years. That's so strange. I think back over the past 40 years, and most of these groups would not have been there. And yet there were many of us who insisted they should be there, who called upon people to be there, and kept on calling on people. Not because we believed that the situation was going to change tomorrow, but because we knew today that insisting on change was the right thing to do. I just want to repeat that. Not because we believed the situation would change tomorrow, but because we knew today that insisting on change was the right thing to do now. And that's where the joy comes from. Knowing that we're doing now what we need to do, someday it will change. But when it comes to an issue of making change in the name of justice, we must remain joyful about the effort and take the long-term view. When it comes to an issue of healing, we must remain cognizant of our sources of comfort. When it comes to an issue of loss, we must remain aware of those people and things for which we can remain grateful. And when it comes to an issue of despair, we must remain aware of those acts and developments which give us hope. Because when we are awake to the sparks of potential goodness around us, even in the downtimes, we can be part of waking up those sparks and moving them into flame. The way forward, whenever we have to leave home, so to speak, is to take with us an awareness of the divine power lurking within the Anochi, the godly presence that travels with you and within you, waiting there for each of us to notice, and waiting there for us to allow others to see it as well. Shabbat Shalom.